In my time producing and learning about filmmaking, I've learned a lot about lighting and color and how they are used to manipulate our emotions. But that got me thinking, do video games do the same thing? So I started to do some research, and I think you'll be surprised by what I found.
To start off, let me give some context. In movies, there's careful selection to stylize and attention to detail down to the exact colors in every frame. What you might not know is just why those colors were picked. Here's an example. In one of my favorite movies, Bladerunner 2049, Roger Deakins uses a myriad of colors to represent different things. The Wallace building is bathed in a golden yellow, representing the wealth of knowledge that fills the area. Or in the well-known Infinity War movies, using colors like purple to symbolize mystery and ominous, almost spirituality akin to the mystery shrouding the Infinity Stones.
I took my understanding of color theory and began to take notice of how games were using the same techniques that I had learned in film to manipulate emotions. In order to understand how these games are manipulating your emotions, first we need to understand what is color theory and the psychology behind it. Colors are composed of three things: hue, saturation, and brightness. Hue is best described as color or shade of color. Simple, right? Saturation is how intense a color is perceived, or how vibrant it is, or how muted it can become. Brightness can often be misleading or misunderstood as saturation. Brightness is the same color, just how light or dark it can become while retaining that same hue or base color.
Now that we've got an understanding of what parts go into colors, let's take a look at how each color will affect one's emotions and why. To preface, color psychology is defined as: color psychology is the study of hues as a determinant of human behavior. Color influences perceptions that are not obvious, such as taste of food. Colors have qualities that can cause certain emotions in people.
Did you catch that? Color influences perceptions that are not obvious and can cause certain emotions. As media as a whole has grown, they have started to adopt the use of colors to get people to feel a certain way or evoke certain emotions. This isn't just movies and games though. Advertising has been using colors for years to manipulate our emotions. Ever wonder why McDonald's uses the red and yellow colors for their logo? It's actually because these colors stimulate our brains to get us hungry and create a feeling of happiness that we start to associate with them. But colors can mean a lot of different things, not just one single meaning. If that were the case, every time we would see a stop sign, we would start salivating.
That understanding of how different colors can be used to a developer's or filmmaker's advantage to trick the audience or player into experiencing a feeling that might not have been realized.
When I say think of a color that reminds you of love, what comes to mind? Reds or pinks, right? Now before I talk about this, I want to quote a professor I used to have who introduced me to the techniques used in color theory. "I'm going to ruin the way you look at movies. You will never be able to look at them the same way again." I remember hearing that and thinking, am I going to start hating everything I watch from now on? Far from it, actually. I was fascinated by the intricacies of how color is used as a tool to not only give a unique style to the scene, but also prey, or rather play, on our emotions. Consider that your last warning, because we're going to shatter the psychology behind colors in gaming. Reds are often used to represent love, strength, and power. On the flip side, it can also be used to represent anger and danger. Orange is used to represent courage, confidence, or friendliness, while also being used to represent ignorance. Yellow is the color of energy, happiness, while on the flip side, it can represent instability or immaturity. Alright, this is taking a bit long for me, so let's do a rapid fire round. Green is associated with money, healing, envy, and jealousy, while blue is representative of tranquility, loyalty, and trust, while also representing the coldness and fear. Pink is used for happy, compassion, and playful, or it can be used for weak and immaturity. Purples are used for royalty, nobility, and ambition. The alternative is mystery and moodiness. Turquoise or cyan is used to represent feelings of spirituality, protection, sophistication, while also representing envy. Now that there is an understanding of each of the colors and what they represent, let's take a look at some games that had exceptional use of color symbolism and how they are playing to our emotions without outright saying it.
Let's kick it off with one that a lot of people have experienced, World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is exceptional with how they use color to portray the environment and the tone of the various places, like Borean Tundra shrouded by blues, representing the coldness and fear of the Lich King in his reach over Azeroth, and his frightening presence that feels ominous. Or how Duskwallow Marsh is a dilapidated swamp filled to the brim with foliage that has taken over, creating an unstable environment and represented by the use of yellows and desaturated colors.
World of Warcraft does this really cool thing where whenever you go into a new zone, if it's a different color palette, it immediately shifts the entire color of the area to where you're going into, to get you into that mood and feeling of what this area is going to be like.
World of Warcraft is filled to the brim with color symbolism, from the anger and dangers portrayed by the intense reds of the lava and molten core, to the lush forests and feelings of healing and rejuvenation felt within places like the Emerald Dreamway. Let's look at a different use of color, or absence thereof, in gaming with Limbo. Limbo's absence of color helps to give the sense of loneliness and a shroud of mystery throughout the areas. Limbo uses lighting to help from the world, and a lack of saturation gives a sense of an abandoned world, with mystery hiding in the shadows. Limbo's use of a desaturated color palette allows the player to get caught in the feeling that they're in a world knowing just as much as the main character, exploring, hoping to find a guiding light or something to bring themselves back to a happier time. That kinda got depressing. Let's change the mood, shall we? Katana Zero is a killer indie game developed by ASCII Soft. Katana Zero uses cyans and magentas to heavily portray the dynamic between the psychologist and Zero. The colors, while also pairing well with one another for a stylization standpoint, also allow you to see the push and pull of the emotions that you feel throughout the world. You experience the envy and learn of the illusions, or rather delusions, of those who inhabit the world. The cyans are representative of how Zero associates the psychologist with sophistication and the balance of Chronos' use and give and take that Chronos has to those who take it, while also representing the envy Zero feels for those who are able to live in a different or more peaceful life. Magenta is a symbolic representation of the compassion and kindness that Zero has to the little girl, the likes of which he hasn't experienced in some time, as well as representing his cooperation and the mystery surrounding the characters. Katana Zero gives you hints with its selection of colors like cyan and magenta, that there is more to the world there, and the deeper you dive into it and the more you learn and subconsciously associate with these colors to the feelings as you're playing.
Building a world that you can fully get immersed in is no small feat, and for a developer to use something like color symbolism and psychology behind it to understand why we're getting immersed in it is just something that they can add to their toolkit to really make a world feel alive.
Video games have been using color in a way that, while visually appealing, also are playing on your emotions to get the player to lose themselves in the stories and get the full experience. You may never look at games in the same way, or maybe you'll close this video and forget all about this, but even if you aren't paying attention to the symbolism and looking for why certain colors are being used, keep in mind that developers know and are using those colors to evoke emotions in the player, and they use this knowledge to help immerse the player in the worlds that they create. Creating a game that people can truly get lost in is no small feat, and using color might just be a little bit of an advantage a developer needs to get you immersed, and that is how games are playing you.